Welcome, welcome. It's episode number 2 of Shameless. How are you doing today?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, welcome to Shameless, where we aim to leverage the transformative power of courage.
And action through a range of topics so you can unlock your full potential.
Yeah, no, let's let the AI lady do that.
Is that-
'Cause
no?
No, we sound like those couples that wear matching clothes.
It's okay, say no more. Like the shoes are the same and the everything head to toe.
And the people who know me, please don't expose me. Hi, my name is Nono Bokete.
And I'm Dzikamai Gangaidzo.
We are both TIFO Leader Ambassadors.
TIFO what?
Leader Ambassadors, or TIFL, which is essentially leaders who prescribe to the leadership philosophy of Transformation Leader. And you can learn a little bit more about that on www.tifleader.com.
Welcome to Shameless. Here we explore the transformative power of courage and action.
All right, we'll just move on because clearly that's a plug and we're not here for that. So what's our topic for today?
Our topic for today is also going to double as our quote for today.
Okay, so we're just gonna go quote and topic in one.
Yes.
All right, let's have it.
Nobody's watching and nobody cares.
What do you mean nobody's watching, nobody's cares?
Nobody. You might be asking yourself, why did you wake up in the morning? If you're honest, it's because you're legally required to, because you got a job. But let's pretend for a second that you are getting up in the morning for some altruistic reason, right? And your day is great and you're doing amazing things because you're a transformational leader and you're impacting lives positively and you're making that sustainable change. But the question that I have for you is, how are you feeling? Because I think a lot of people don't feel like they're being recognized for all the great things that they do on a day-to-day basis.
Whoa, hold up. So that's just so sad because I feel like every day I wake up and I'm just not seen.
Yeah, you might be feeling like you are the best employee and you're doing the best things every day, and your boss is just not even acknowledging that you are working so hard, and it's kind of thankless, right?
And at the end of the day, I end up feeling like I'm in a rut or in a space where what I'm doing does not add value or is not being seen. And at the end, why the hell am I doing this? We're allowed to use the word hell, right?
Yes,
Okay.
we are. I think it doesn't count as a swear.
As a bad word?
Yes,
All
yes.
right. All right.
I might beep it out just in
Just a-
case.
But at the end of the day, I want to be seen by my boss. I want to be seen by my colleagues. I want to be seen by the people around me because I'm actually doing something worth seeing. Surely,
I think beware of falling into the trap of wanting to be recognized for everything you do, because in reality, nobody is watching and nobody cares.
why no? Why would you say something like that?
People are selfish. Do not take this person.
Well, I am taking it personally, so you're gonna have to go deeper and explain what you mean. That people are selfish, but I care.
Listen, people are too busy worrying about their own problems. You could be the next Aliko Dangote or Baroness Dambi Samoyo, but if you're not solving someone's problems or making their lives easier, they won't bat an eye. It's not personal. It's just how people are wired. Critical point to remember if you want to do transformational work.
So you're telling me if I want to do anything transformational, whether it's both myself or transformational towards other people, it's nobody's watching, nobody cares. Why the hell am I doing it?
Your journey has to be for you. It has to be a personal thing. Like, why do you wake up in the morning besides for your paycheck? Of course, I'm not going to say that people should get fed, right? But what is the why for you? What is your subconscious why that you are getting up to do things? It can't be anchored on other people.
So I need to remember this in order to do transformational work. But then if nobody actually cares about my problems and they care about their problems, could I use that as an opportunity to actually build the network, move the dial, and actually drive in a certain direction?
Yes. If you're not solving someone's problems or making their lives easier, they won't bat an eye. And it's not a personal thing, like everyone has their own problems. So if you're trying to leverage your network or build that circle of influence as a transformational leader, you need to be solving problems. You've chosen this path of transformational leadership because you want to be the person who is solving those big problems, who is impacting lives, and you're not actually waiting for somebody to go, "Aw, thank you."
But did I actually choose this path, or
Just find yourself in it.
oh, did I just find myself in it? Exactly. But at the end of the day, what I'm hearing you say is that in order for me to actually build a network, in order for me to actually build my circle of influence, one potential approach could be to understand what people's problems are, to understand where I might be actually be able to be of service to being able to solve their problems. What do you think that actually brings to an individual once they see you like that, see you as somebody who's able to solve problems?
Think of yourself in a work context and you're feeling stuck. And remember, we spoke about different tactics that you could use in order to influence your leaders in your organizations to change their mindset from maybe fixed to growth. Now, this is another approach that you can use because if you're solving your leaders' problems, not only are you now in a space where you are demonstrating leadership ability, you are also seen as someone who is reliable, useful, and you want to be in that sort of space. If you are an employee and you're in an organization, the question that I have for you is, do you know where you want to go? And if you want to go to the next level, which could just be a promotion to the next grade, right now, today, are you acting and performing like the person in that higher level? Or are you waiting for that promotion before you start performing like that person? Do you have any examples where you've actually seen people not get promoted because they actually haven't been performing at the next level? Because I actually do think that a lot of the times people only get promoted after they demonstrate, and there are very few of us who get promoted for potential.
And that's like, that's actually quite funny because at the end of the day, a lot of people want the world to be fair. You look around and you say, because X, then I should also get the opportunity. But the reality is that the world is unfair and you just have to accept it. And the only way for you to accept it, in my view, is to actually step up and grab and seize the opportunity by the horns. Now, to answer your question exactly, I've had moments where I have put before somebody a task. That task was one in which I wanted to see whether their mindset was one in which they could drive a project, lead a project, and also come up with solutions in an innovative way. But what ended up happening is because that person wasn't actually in that headspace, they would come back to me for reaffirmation and to get clarity and constantly asking questions rather than saying, I have been put in this place. I've been empowered to do this, and therefore I should operate at that level or take that opportunity, even if I haven't been necessarily formally asked, but I should run and provide solutions as though I was the boss. I should think as to what questions might I be asked, and I should actually be ahead of that question. I should be providing the service that allows for my boss to actually not necessarily have to think, to actually make decisions is where I want him to be. And so if I'm not operating in that space, if I don't have that mindset, it is very easy to be boxed in to the view that you're only capable what you're showing me. as opposed to you're capable of more than what you're showing me. And I think that's the trap that a lot of people sit in. And then the reality at the end of the day, they wonder why this world is not fair. The world is not fair because it's watching you for what you are showing them and not what you could show them. So show them what you can do.
The world isn't fair. That's true. And I think we will probably say that in every single podcast.
Going forward.
Yes. Because you can work tirelessly day and night, sacrificing sleep, social life, in my case, sanity, to pursue your dream. But what happens when you achieve your goal, or worse, you get overlooked for that prize opportunity, that prize promotion? Does the world stop and applaud your accomplishment or give you a big cuddle with a blanket? It doesn't. It really doesn't. So, that mindset, the fact that you have to have that fearless mindset, that growth mindset, and that proactive mindset is what's going to help you get to that next step.
And to add to your point, it requires a lot of grit and resilience in order to get through any adversity. In order to just hear the word that the world is not fair, get over it. You are accepting that you will be at a low point in some point and you'll have to pick yourself up. And in order to do that, you have to be very clear as to where you're trying to get to, where you're trying to go. And so having that notion and that idea of that end of what you're trying to achieve becomes absolutely imperative and critical for you to be able to wear and drive through those moments when you realize, well, I am alone, or this person does not care. And
and they really don't.
And they don't. And it's and
what do you do about it?
And it's not their fault. What are you going to do? Your move.
So, in regards to your move, like, how would you characterize having a proactive mindset? Like, how can someone leverage that mindset to help them ensure that they aren't in a rut and that they're still able to push forward?
So, the number one thing is take the initiative. By that, I mean it is important to go beyond what you've currently defined yourself as or what the world looks at you as, and take the steps to actually identify opportunities for improvement, opportunities to implement changes in your life. The reason why you are where you are is because you are comfortable. You are comfortable in what you're doing. And if you're not going to take the initiative to take the next step, that's the first, you will not move. But what the most important thing after that is to keep moving. And to keep moving means that you need to be forward thinking. You need to be looking for the next challenge and you need to be preparing yourself for the next challenge. And the reality of it all sometimes is the world around you might actually stop or cease to progress. And by that, I mean, how about if you're not getting a promotion, you're in the same role for a very long time? That does not mean that you're not growing. Does not mean that you're not actually looking at your future challenges and preparing yourself. You could still be doing that even though you, as a job title, as a location or a space that you are, it's not changing. But the reality is that as long as you are growing and you don't stop growing, then you are building the muscles, you're growing the skills in order for you to be able to take advantage of any opportunity that arises. And that proactive mindset requires you to be able to take control and to anticipate future needs. And the only way that you are going to be able to take advantage of future needs is by preparing yourself before the time that it comes. So identify where you want to get to, start moving, keep moving, and at the end of the day, the only thing that you can control is yourself and the things that form your future, your path. Those are the only things that you should really be looking to work on, because every situation and the only thing that you can control is the way that you respond.
So, a good book to read is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if you're on the Transformation Leader course, That is the book for month one. One of the aspects that Stephen Covey highlights is around that circle of control. For the guys who are listening at home, just imagine that you have a circle, and in the middle of that circle, you're writing circle of control. And those are things such as how you respond to others, the thoughts, the things that you say to yourself, the boundaries that you set. Then think of a bigger circle around that one, and we're going to call that one the circle of influence. That's your work relationships, your school friendships, your behaviors of people you're with. And the last circle, which would be larger than the circle of control and the circle of influence, is the circle of concern, which looks at things like weather, people's health, war, climate change, violence, etc. All right, so we have understood that nobody's watching and nobody cares. Now, what can you do about something like that? I personally recommend putting your head down and doing the work for you. You are the architect of your success, and your beliefs play a crucial role in it, no doubt. You have to believe in yourself. You can't give up. So if you doubt yourself or you give up too easily, it will be a harder road to your destination. Very few people, if any, will clap on the roadside, encouraging you to go on this audacious journey.
Now,
Is that unfair?
no, it's not. I actually think that that's the sad reality of life. I have way too often gone and done certain things with the hope of getting praise and the hope of actually being recognized. But the reality of it all, when I look back at it now, is that nobody actually was part of that journey besides myself. And I was doing it as a function of my own journey. And the only thing that I really gained from it was the skills and development that I actually acquired through that experience. There was nothing else. There was nobody who sat there, gave me a lollipop for the work that I did. Nah, it was purely a function of I've done this, I have built this skill. This skill gets me closer to where I want to be. And that's the reality of this tough world that we live in. Nobody's watching.
And nobody cares. Now, what happens if you're in an organization or you have a boss that you feel they need to actually care so that I can progress? What do you do in those sort of situations? Is there anything you can do?
Nobody needs to do anything. That's part of this circle conversation that we're just having. Nobody needs to do anything. So that shouldn't be your thought process. You can control aspects associated to yourself, the end. So if your boss needs to do anything, then think about it again and rephrase that sentence into something more proactive and more constructive. It is about where am I trying to get to? How do I get there? My career advancement, what professional setting, what professional aspects do I want to grow in terms of my own acumen, leadership skills, communication skills? So you need to look at what you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to get to. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you can actually change or grow beyond that is how do I grow the relationships around me? How do I leverage the team and the community that I have in order to actually build and advance? Because, in all fairness, no man or woman is an island on their own. And it's most critical that you can be proactive in the way that you approach getting and gaining support towards driving to a certain direction or growth trajectory. And I think that's one of the most critical aspects that become very hard in order to problem solve. It's how do I work with people to solve the problems that we either both are facing or I am facing alone that are a function of both understanding, which is a function of communication, or a function of how I perceive the world around me. If I'm perceiving it very differently to everybody else, I might be the one missing the mark. And so it's an inward conversation with yourself as to what are those opportunities for growth and why is it that I'm actually not able to get to the point where we're both on the same page and I'm seeing it the same way as somebody else might be seeing it. And that then becomes the point of separation or discontent or misunderstanding, which actually then pushes you into the rut or segregates you from the conversation at hand.
Do you have any recommendations on how one might be able to cultivate proactivity?
Cultivating proactivity at the end of the day is around mindset change. So the first part is you as an individual moving from a victim mentality towards a victor.
Okay, guy.
And at the end of the day, the question is about what circumstances are there and can you create in order for you to be able to control your actions and responses in a more constructive, in a way that then builds towards the direction that you need to.
So is that kind of like creating your own luck?
Correct. And luck is not a function of sitting there and not trying or not doing, but it's a function of trying something, understanding why it doesn't work, and then iterating on those attempts that you've had before.
Some people don't start. And I think we spoke about this last week about fearing less
Yeah.
because that's going to help you start. You have the mindset sorted. What practical steps can you actually do then to get started? Okay, day one, what am I doing?
I always like to take an A4 page. I then break it up into 7 compartments, Monday all the way to Sunday. And then I break them into 2-hour chunks. And then I ask myself, what do I want to do? I plan my days. There are 2 things here. The first thing is I want to set very clear goals around what I want to achieve and what habits I'm trying to gain and build off of. The second thing is I really want to gain a routine that will help me build confidence and gain a rhythm into continuously working on the things that I set out to do. The other things include self-reflecting. Once I've put the goals forward, once I'm working through a routine, and once I'm taking and achieving aspects on my plan, then I need to reflect regularly on the actions, decisions I've made, and the goals that I've missed. It's okay to miss sometimes, but the key is to understand why and to understand that any decision that I make should be aligned to my long-term goals. And if I'm not making those strides and I'm not making the right decisions, then I should really start to question if my long-term goals are really something I actually want to achieve.
No, I definitely agree with that. Because the reason you ain't Michael Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan?
No, I said Michael Jordan on purpose because I didn't want to be dragged on the street. Another thing that we touched upon, but I really want to talk about how language can impact your mindset and behavior. And you see this discussed in various fields like psychology, linguistics, and personal development because it's aligned with cognitive behavioral theories, which suggest that our thoughts, including the language we use, can influence our emotions and behaviors. A good book to read around this is the book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. She discusses the new psychology of success. And she has done a lot of seminal work in this area and discusses how language can reflect and shape our attitudes towards learning and effort. And this is a pivotal thing to grasp because you said it best, right? When I was like, well, if the person has a terrible boss, it's like the mindset, like how are you thinking about this? It has nothing to do with your boss. Yes, you're in the middle of the desert. Okay, then get your bag and start taking one step in front of the other. And it's that kind of like unapologetically, like, I'm going to get this no matter what. Last question for you before we move on. When it comes to achieving and thriving for your goal, is it easier to keep the motivation burning if you're only thinking about motivation, not discipline? So forget about how it goes, discipline's the only thing, don't care about motivation. Is it easier to keep the motivation burning if you kind of have a villain in mind? like I'm gonna show you, versus, oh, everything's peachy and I'm just doing this, blah.
I think so. When you look at a lot of these stories, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook because he had a villain.
Who is this villain?
The girlfriend that didn't want to be his girlfriend. He said he wasn't good enough or something like that. They all of these guys, all of these people had these sad sob stories. But look, I think at the end of the day, I think that having a villain definitely gives you a motivation around it as maybe as a start. But I don't think that's the only way to skin this cat. Everybody has a different approach and a different view on this because, and I'll give you an example. Something that really shaped my mindset from a very young age was an experience I had when I used to play sport. I loved sport. And I was like, hey, parents, come watch me play my sport, which happened to be rugby. And I'm a small guy. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm a relatively small guy. So
William Small.
let's not go there. But maybe Kevin Hart, funny for Kevin Hart, small. But anyway, so I then go in and I'm playing rugby against people who are a lot bigger than me, and my mom and dad are on the side and they're watching my first game, and I want to do everything I can in order to really show, like, look at me, I'm so great. And I finished the game, and the only thing my mom and dad said is, I'm never coming back to another game. They're like, we watched you just every single time you were involved in a thing in rugby. I thought you weren't going to stand up. We thought you were going to die. That big guy who was twice your size ran you over. Are you okay? And they just found it absolutely brutal and horrible. And that was the moment when I realized nobody's watching and nobody cares. It was a tough ass lesson to just be like, wait, so I called you here so that you could be part of this moment. But in the end, you just looked at me and said, you poor little boy, you couldn't, like, there's no ways this is for you. So at the end of the day, I believe that motivation is fueled by different things. Everybody's got their own story. And at the end of the day, we need to look for how we turn what we term as adversity into something positive. How we can then make that into a proactive approach, a more healthy and more constructive mindset towards then building off of that experience, motivation, to then say, I am now going to be really good at X. And so I didn't become a pro rugby player because, yeah, I'm too small for that. But it showed me something that I really wasn't expecting to see.
Yeah, so definitely dig deep, but dig deep for you.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, I continued playing rugby only because I felt that it was something for me. And no matter how hard or bad any situation became, I made that decision for myself and not for somebody else.
In terms of the journey, though,
Ugh.
it's not going to be roses the whole way. And one of the things that I say to myself is, this too shall pass, as in the good will pass and the bad will pass, because that's life. What's your mindset around the setbacks?
If I don't have any setbacks, then I'm not trying anything. I think it's important to find setbacks, to fail, but it is more important to know that failure is part of the journey of growth. And so when you fail, you know that you're growing. And you won't get anywhere if you don't fail. So the key is to keep moving, and that's to move through the failures and to know that this is a moment of which I probably will look back at and go, you know what? I really tanked that, but it's not the end of the world. Life still continued and moved on. And so, yes, setbacks exist. But I'm trying to get so far away that this setback should and will look like a very small blip in the whole journey.
Also could be a good story.
Yeah, true. For a podcast episode, right?
Exactly. I definitely think that that's true. You know, you need to do it for you, and the journey is going to have failure in it, and the shame around the failure. Trying to think about how can you fear less? How can you be shameless around the setbacks that you might experience? And also just focusing on your journey. The phrase stay in your lane, yes, it could also mean like don't come over here, but really stay in your lane. Like focus on what you are doing. You are going to achieve whatever you want to achieve, and it's not going to be the same thing as somebody else. And I think that that also comes out in terms of that abundance mindset. Some people get really fearful about sharing their knowledge, sharing their time. And if you're a transformation leader, you can't be fearful. You need to understand that there's enough for everyone. So if I'm sharing my knowledge and time with you, it's so that you can achieve what you can achieve. Because if the more people are achieving, it just increases the economy. Like it's just gonna work that way. There is enough. In short, what do you want to leave the listeners with?
In short, some of the most impactful statements are the most hard hitting. Nobody's watching, nobody cares. And the reality is, people are selfish. They do things for themselves, and you should not take that personally. The question is, how do you leverage that space in order for you to move forward? Another thing, the world is not fair. Accept it. You're not the only one, and you won't be the last one. We will always face adversity. We will feel like victims in certain circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's how we move forward and move out of that space. And that is typically by putting your head down and getting the work done. You can get it done, but it requires you to control your inner emotions, your feelings, your priorities, but most importantly, know where you want to go. Dig deep, love your journey, the good side and the bad side. There is no sun if there is no rain. There is no darkness if there was no light. And at the end, the journey is a
Don't
long,
forget to like,
steadfast
subscribe, and
journey.
share
And
as
you
we
need to
embark
know
on
where
our
you're
mission
trying
to
to get
impact
to
1
in
million
order to
African
be able to
lives
get
by
to the end.
2026.